Hello guys and girls and welcome back to episode 2 of Ask Neon, and in this video we're going to be talking about Donald Trump.
Hey, what the fuck is this, better?
This is the painting you asked for, sir.
Why is my dick so small?
But that's the size it is in the photo.
Get this guy out of here! I'm gonna sue you! I'm gonna sue both of you!
Alright, okay, so maybe not Trump himself, but we are going to be talking about his tariffs and how it affects the Japanese music industry, as suggested by this guy right here, who says, hey, this would make a good video, how Trump's incompetence is affecting the Japanese music industry's international markets. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so first things first. Obviously, once the new fees and tariffs had come into effect, we've seen a plethora of not only Japan but countries from around the world, carriers suspending shipments to the US, the United Kingdom, Germany, Lithuania, Slovenia, Norway, Singapore, South Korea, India, Australia, Japan, New Zealand. So there's many countries that just simply have suspended. Maybe they have resumed it since the recording of this video and this announcement. I'm not 100% sure, but the general consensus is that most carriers still have suspended, or like I said, you pay the insane tariff fees for that, which is kind of what we're getting into here. I mean, that's just for the postage and packaging. So basically what this equates to is, if you're in America, you're a fan, you want to support a band in Japan, let's say like a band that's not like internationally recognized. Let's say sort of like a band that's got semi-success that you want to go and support. So let's say a band like I don't know, Tagane, for instance. If you wanted to support them and you were like, hey, they got a new album out, I want to buy a CD, I want to buy a shirt, maybe buy a hat or something like that, then you order that. Then it's going to cost you in America an excessive amount of fees to get that imported into the country. It's going to cost the band themselves an enormous amount of fees on top, extra, that they have to pay to send you that package, and eventually the fees just add up. So what could be a maybe traditionally $80, maybe $120 package could end up being taxed, tariff to near $200, which makes, obviously, for these small bands sending this merch to America, it makes it not worth it, because then the profit margin is dramatically shrink. It becomes almost non-beneficial to sell their merch to America with all the extra fees and tariffs and taxes that are all going to be added onto this, not only on the side of the consumer, the customer, but for the bands themselves. And what we've seen now over the last couple of weeks is bands just outright refusing to sell their merch to America. I think there's some bands that are still doing it, like the very popular international bands that maybe can afford to take a little bit of a hit, but there is just so many bands right now just like, we're sorry, we just can't post to America. And this is unfortunate because there's a large customer base in America. These small bands or medium-sized bands rely on this income to survive, and now half of their customer base has been cut off because they cannot rationalize sending these merch items or CDs or whatever to their customers in America. And again, for people in America, there is definitely people out there that would probably pay the fees or the tariffs just to support the band they love. But even then, at the end of the day, you're still paying a ridiculous amount, and not everybody has $200, $300 to throw away. Maybe, and especially when you're not getting your money's worth. Like when the items that maybe you're purchasing are $100, $200, and then you're paying almost $200 more. for these items. Like, even then, it just makes you not want to buy them. And again, I'm sure there's some diehard fans that will probably still do it to support their bands, but for like the longevity of, like, you know, a customer base in the US and for the bands themselves, that's just not going to work. And this is on top of like the visa stuff, the tariffs as well. So what you're finding now is smaller bands that could tour America, kind of get like a foothold in America as well, go to different venues. It's becoming too insanely expensive to go over there. Case in point, we've got the Japanese metal band here, Loudness, who's had to just cancel their US tour completely because of visas. And you know, they've come out and said, look, we had to cancel all this because we just can't afford it. Like, they said that they applied for some exemption papers, it didn't come through. It's obviously making touring, they say, a little bit harder here, but it's a lot harder to do. And then now, you know, it's a little bit different since the new president came in. So, you know, that's a nice way of saying it. It's Trump's fault. But then they said they got refused entry. They had to cancel their gig. You know, and they said like even like the extra payments, I think they came to about $8,000 each. Like $8,000 for a band if you're touring, and then that's on top of gig fees, you know, travel, equipment that you're taking over, your roadies, your, you know, the people to lug around your equipment as well. This all adds up. Like, and if the band can't in because it's too expensive for the individual band to do it, then you can imagine what that would be for like a crew, you know, for a setup, for transportation, to book the venues, for the gigs, food. Like, it adds up, and then eventually it's just the profit margin again begins to shrink to the point where it's like, is it even worth going to the USA? Because you can't make any money. It's too absurdly expensive just to enter the country. Now, $8,000, you know, a head is kind of expensive. And again, you would expect maybe bands like Baby Metal, Love Bites, possibly, you know, you'll get like your Addos and stuff like that, Atarashi Gakko, that obviously have that international pull in America, that maybe can get away with it. Like, they earn the big bucks, and you know, it's expensive, but they could probably steal it. But for all these lower end bands that are trying to make a name for themselves, all the middle bands, like possibly, like I said, like Hagani, like Unlucky Morpheus, if they ever wanted to tour in the US, like all these bands that maybe don't venture outside of Japan too much, that, you know, fans of the US would love to see, it just becomes an impossible thing for them now. You know, and that's unfortunately the climate we look at. I've got another post here, sort of the same thing related to Bridea. You know, on Bridea, they're not small by any, you know, estimation. They are one of those bands that I personally would think they probably could afford to do that. But even then, this is a Discord post on Fang, and he goes, look, thanks to America's absurd, expensive and broken visa system, we are extremely sad to report that both Elaine and Bridea will not be able to make the festival this year. Although both our artists had their visas expedited and approved, which cost a whopping $8,000 each. This is not including the crew. This is not including the guys who look after their equipment. The equipment itself. Like I said, this all adds up. You're probably looking at about $20, $30, possibly even $40,000 just to land in America. And then, you know, you're going to need 5, 6, 7, 8, possibly even 10, 11 shows to make that money back, to make this tour profitable. And let's be honest, for a lot of Japanese bands touring America, that's just not possible, you know. For, again, unless you're a top-notch band, you're not making that money back, or at least you could, but it's going to take a really long time, to the point where it's like, is it, you know, it's kind of pointless. They did say that the US embassies in the countries had an in-person interview. In Bridea's case, the Tokyo embassy just decided to close down applications for May for some reason. Now, this was a little bit before, obviously, the visas and the tariffs came to full effect. But obviously, they were obviously alerted that the passports would not be processed in time. and the embassy would not confirm a time frame or even give them an estimate. So if you're trying to plan a tour, you don't even know if you would be allowed into the country. This is something that bands now are going to have to plan months in advance to be able to get their passports approved, their visas approved, pay all these fees, pay these tariffs, organize it. It just makes everything 20 times harder than it needs to be. Even then, goes like, this is the only major country where this happens. He goes, even his band, Lords of Trident, successfully applied last minute for a visa tour. It cost us all $500 and took roughly a month in Canada and the US. So there you go. So there's fees upon fees upon fees. This is why I didn't want to try and get quite into the numbers game, because I just can't make a correct estimate. I mean, if there's somebody watching this video that could comment down below the exact fees, tariffs and stuff like that for postage, for bands, for crews. I know there's visas that allow obviously multiple people on a single visa, but obviously if you're taking loads of people with you, you might need one, you might need two, you might need three. I would love to know the exact costs. Again, there's definitely videos on YouTube that you could watch that will probably go a little bit more in depth with these things, but we're just going to try and keep it relatively sort of, like I said, on the lenient side here. But you can see already how these bands are scared to tour. Now, there's been rumours of like Bandmate kind of going to US in November as well, but then there's nothing been said there. Bands now, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of a push to Europe rather than America, probably this year or next year, or whether or not they, in a couple of months, or if there isn't progress of maybe lowering these tariffs, lowering these fees to allow bands to come to America. Because at the end of the day, the only people missing out in this situation is the American people, is the Japanese fans who would want to spend their hard-earned cash supporting the bands and the artists that we love. I mean, this is a negative effect on both sides. Like I said, my brothers and sisters in America won't be able to see the bands that they want. And on the flip side, the bands, which, America is a very important market, it's just not feasible for them to go anymore. It's kind of crazy. And I got one more thing to kind of come back to as well. This is from Only Japan Go. Really awesome channel. Go and subscribe to them with almost 300,000 subscribers. That must be nice. I'm still trying to get 30,000, so yeah, smash a like on this video at the very least. I'd appreciate it. But even in this video, then I would suggest you go and watch it. I'll leave a link in the description down below. Even here says, look, if you've got a package or gifts or something, anything exceeding over $100 US, then you're going to get taxed. You're going to get tariffed. And this adds on to anything, like even gifts now. Like if you wanted to buy something for a friend, if it's over $100, then it's going to be taxable, which is kind of crazy. So now we're seeing loads of couriers just refusing, because it's too expensive, refusing to go to the US. Now I'm sure there'll be still like private couriers, like maybe like your FedExes, your DBTs and stuff like that, that will probably still ship internationally. You may still face those fees. They may try and make it smaller. I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure that there isn't an outright ban on all imported goods. I'm sure if there is a will, there is a way, and I'm sure there is a market there for somebody to offer that service. Will it be cheap? I don't know. But this is the situation we're in now, where it's not only affecting the income of some of these smaller, lesser known Japanese bands, but it's also affecting their ability to tour. It's also affecting their ability to gain renown, to increase their popularity, to showcase their skills on a live stage, to garner new fans, to garner new income. It's kind of crazy now how this situation has kind of arrived. It's mad, and I really feel for the US now, because we're going to get some bands that are starting out, that are probably going to do like small tours in Europe, that just can't do America anymore. Where maybe they might come around come over for like 1 or 2 shows, maybe a festival or something to garner some attention. Even that now becomes an incredibly expensive scenario. You know, not only for the band members themselves, again, but the equipment, the staff, the managers, the roadies, the equipment people, travel expenses, booking, it all adds up to the point where, like, if you're a relatively new or upcoming band, it's just, you can't justify doing it anymore. I would be very interested to know, and again, let me know in the comments, what obviously, like, my American subscribers are thinking about this, like what the situation has been for you guys. Have you now been in a situation where you're like, hey, this is ridiculous now, like, how has it affected you? Has it affected you at all? I'd be really interested to know this. Has it been blown out of proportion, or have you seen like a notable rise where, like, maybe even you guys can't justify spending, this amount of money anymore? I'd be hella interested to know kind of what the situation is. It just seems like a really bad situation. It seems like a really unthought out tariff system. I know there's going to be counter arguments here, and I don't want to make this post political. And just obviously, again, I just want to show the landscape of how it's affecting the Japanese music industry, rather than obviously being a political post, because I know the reason why the tariffs are there to earn American money, to pay them their way out of the huge amount of debt that they're in, and the money that they owe out and stuff like that. I get that, so I don't want to make this a political post. I just want to talk about the scenarios, on how these tariffs are affecting the international market and the bands that you love. That's really all more I can say. Again, I don't want to tap into like too much into like the actual numbers again, because there's better videos out there than me, but I just want to say in layman terms of how this is affecting bands, how this is affecting performers, and it's just not a good scenario all round. Again, the consumer and the bands that we love, we want to support the bands we love, we want to see them, we want to give them a platform to shine, and unfortunately these tariffs, by design or by not, just unfortunately do not set the president to be able to do that. To be able to do that. So, again, I'm interested to know what your guys' thoughts. Let me know again if you're from America, how it's been affected you, or even if you're outside America, if these tariffs have like hit you, or maybe had an adverse effect on wherever it is you live. Like, please let me know. Let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll come back for part 2 of this one, and kind of read through some of your guys' comments, some of your guys' replies, and kind of like see what the crack is, basically. But anyway, if you've tuned in for this long, thank you for staying. I really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you can, again, smash a like. Maybe think about hitting that subscribe button. It really, really helps. This is kind of like a new series where I get to talk to you guys a little bit more seriously about different subjects and not just doing reactions. So I'm really excited to do these series. It's only the second one I've ever done, so I'm still kind of nervous, still kind of figuring it out. But I appreciate all the support. Again, let me know in the comments some questions that you guys want to ask, and I'll do my best to make a video, and I'll pick the one out that I think, hey, that's a good idea to do episode 3. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below some of your questions that you guys want to ask, and I'll see you guys hopefully on the next one. And to all my American subscribers out there, God bless, and hopefully this will sort itself out. Bye guys.